Yo, 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 what is up, my fallopian tubers? Cesario from the barrio coming back at you with another video for your butt. Man, this is going to be a video about my Mickey Mantle PC. It's been 20 years since I started this journey of trying to collect the player era tops run of Mickey Mantle cards. Man, been sick for 2 weeks, haven't drank or smoked. I drank a couple of beers today for the first time, and I'm already MC hammered, man. Like, I can't even crush this cat. But you know how it is, man. So, just gonna talk about it. I do an update almost every year where I'm at. This is 20 years, man. Come a long way. So this is just gonna be a chill video. You know how I do it. I drink and smoke. So if you're not cool with it, you know, please don't watch. But that's what we're gonna do. It's just a hangout. All right. Let's just start off with like the 1951 Bowman Mickey Mantle rookie. It's kind of out of my range. You know how I say act your wage. That's kind of not really in my cards. So I don't have the 1951 Bowman, nor do I have the 52 Bowman, which is actually a really cool card too. The 52 tops. Man, I remember like 10 years ago, the authentic used to go for like $1,000 depending on the condition. And back then, even $1,000 was way out of my range unless I could get it in layaway. But you know, that had to be like a perfect situation where I had to find a dealer who had it at that price and had layaway, and it just never came across it. But now it's like crazy out of my range, you know. But man, that would have been sweet if I could have picked that up a long time ago in an authentic for $1,000. But it's like I said, it's out of my cards now, so I'm not too worried about it. Then you got like the 53 Bowman, which is a sweet card, which I could have that, but I can't. But I do have the 53 Bowman with Mantle, Bauer, and Berra. Now this card right here, every time I see it, like a lot, what goes through my mind a lot is the Copacabana situation that went down. If you guys aren't familiar with the Copacabana situation, you know, Mickey Mantle, Bauer, Berra, along with Whitey Ford, they went to go celebrate Billy Martin's, I think it was like his 29th birthday at the Copacabana. And if you guys are familiar with what happened there, they got into a big fight. They were there with their wives, and they went to go see Sammy Davis Jr. perform. And there was also a bowling team there that was already, you know, drunk after they won their championship, you know, wherever they were coming from, and they went to go celebrate there. And, you know, the story kind of goes that, you know, apparently they were being rude to Sammy Davis Jr., maybe saying some racial slurs or whatever, and then the guys on the angle said, hey, like, keep it cool, man, we're here with our wives. And then they ended up getting into a fight. They got into a fight. It was a big fiasco. It was on the newspaper and everything. But everything kind of worked out for the best for everybody in the end. You know, Bauer really messed somebody up because Bauer's just a big dude. All right, but that's what this card kind of always reminds me of, the story of the Copacabana. All right, then I got this 53 tops. Now, this card right here, it's kind of the same thing. It was right timing, right place. I gotta say that I just didn't think this was like a card that I really had targeted hardcore. But in 2018, when the Dodgers went to the World Series, in which we ended up losing to Boston, but I got a pretty nice bonus, and I was buying my house at that same time. Took out a loan to buy my house and ended up having some extra cash just because of the way the house market works. It's kind of crazy. So had some cash left over that I had taken out to make my down payment, but then my down payment ended up being lower, so I had free flowing cash, and I put down like $300 or $400 on this card on layaway. You know, my dealer gave me a layaway plan on this, and then we got to the World Series, and then I got a bonus from the World Series, and so I was able to pay this card off, just 2 payments, one from my house and then one from the World Series. So this card, she was originally selling for $1,000. And I was like, no, that's just too much. She said, okay, I'll give it to you for $900 on layaway. And I was like, oh, all right, sweet. Okay, I'll try to do that for $900 on layaway. And then when I went to go make my $800 payment, she just gave it to me. She said, you've been a good customer. I'll just let you have it for $800. So another $100 off. So I ended up getting this card for $800, man. That's like, it was meant to be, man. Love it. So that's how I ended up getting this one. Then the next card I have is the 54 Bowman Mickey Mantle. So like I said, when I first started doing this run, I was only interested in getting the Topps cards. But this one I ended up, running across, and it was like $200. And with her, like doing layaway and stuff, I had looked at it and I was kind of considering buying this one. But when I ended up getting my taxes, I just ended up buying this one cash for $200. Like I said, this was a long time ago. And the only reason I ended up really buying this was just for the simple fact that a lot of other dealers at this place, they had this card and they were selling them for like $500, $400 raw. Raw, because they would say like, well, my card is in great shape, but it'll probably grade a 7 or it'll probably grade a 6. So that's what they were pricing their raw cards on. But this card that was already graded a 4 was selling for $200. So with my income tax, I ended up just buying this cash for like $200. It's crazy how just things work. And then this card right here, I hadn't just got my income tax or gotten a bonus or anything. This was like $150 or $125, and I ended up putting this one on layaway. And you gotta realize that this was like so long ago. I was working at a place called Big League Dreams at the time, and I was making like $8 or $8.50 an hour. You know what I mean? And back then, even though my rent was like $900 a month, making like practically minimum wage at the time, I didn't have dispensable cash. So most of the cards that I would buy was doing my side jobs. We would do side jobs building mounds for like high schools and little leagues. We would charge $800, but it was my friend's business. So he would charge $800. It was like dirt cheap. But, we would do this like in a day or two, and I would get $200. But, back then when I'm making $200 a week, 5 days, for 40 hours, we could build a mound in like 6 hours or 8 hours, and I would get $200. It was a no-brainer. It was like, it was his business. So he would keep 6 and I would keep 2. And that's how I ended up, buying this card. Another interesting fact about this card, when I bought this card, I had a 1986 El Camino, dropped to the ground on some Dayton Rams. It was a gangster-ass car. And I kept this on the dash. All right, one of the things that this is just bringing me back to is just the story. Maybe you guys don't like my stories, but when I was going to the parking lot at my work, there was a note on my windshield. First thing you see when you see a note, you think somebody hit your car and they left you a note or something. And I was like, oh man, and I looked around my car, I got the note, and then I looked around before I read it, and then I started reading it. And while I was reading it, some dude walks up to me. He's like, hey, I left that note on your car. And I was like, oh, like, what happened? He's like, oh, no. He's this is when I started working right when I first started working at USC. And I still had that car. And he tells me, hey, yeah, I'm a movie major, and we're making a movie. And your car would fit perfect in our movie. We're just wondering if we could borrow it. And I was like, well, borrow my car. And I think I was just so happy that my car didn't get hit or anything. I said, okay, I agreed to it. So it was actually on my 21st birthday. Not my 21st birthday. On my birthday. My birthday's on the 21st. On my birthday, they needed to borrow that car that night to film their movie. And I remember my wife was like pissed. Like, what are you doing? Like, how do you just let somebody borrow your car? Like, how do you know their names? Like, no, I don't know anything about them. I just said, yeah. So that day, they came to my house right before my birthday party was going to start, and they took the car. And they were supposed to bring him back that night. They told me at midnight. But they didn't, man. It wasn't until like the very next morning they brought my car back. And then my wife, okay, and the reason why it has to do with this card is because a lot of my friends, you know, people back then, you know, Mexicans, we keep our family pictures on our dash of our card. But when I got this card, I kept this on the dash. I remember I bought it when I was working at Big League Dreams, but I had just started my job at USC when I had that card, and I kept this on the dash. So that's why this reminded me of that situation. But anyways, so that guy took the car, and I told him, hey, I'm going to leave this car in the dash. I said, you know, make sure that nobody takes it. And they're like, oh, yeah, you know, we'll make sure nobody takes it. And I had no idea what they were doing, but they took my car. We had my birthday party, and then I remember waiting till like 2 in the morning, and they never came back with my car. And we went to sleep, and then the very next morning, like at 7 a.m., you just hear my car. You know, it had a big engine, it had dual exhaust, so you know you hear it coming in. It had a nice sounding exhaust. You hear it coming in. We woke up, we went out, and I had never asked them exactly what they were doing with the movie, but my wife asked them, and then they said like, yeah, we were making a movie about like some killer hooker who kills her pimp, and this was going to be the pimp's car, because my car was dropped on Dayton's, you know, it was El Camino on Dayton's. It was sweet, and they used it in a independent movie that they were making. You know, I wish I could find out what that movie was, and if it ever, yeah, I wish I could see my car in it. But anyways, when they brought it back, first thing I wanted to check, I checked the dash to see for this card, and it wasn't on there. And I was like, oh man, I go, what happened to my card? And then the guy's like, oh, it's in the glove compartment. I took it off because I couldn't see how fast we were going. So it was in the glove compartment, but it doesn't really matter, because the thing with my car is, you know, stock, it comes with like 15-inch rims with thick tires. But the Daytons that I had on there were 13-inch Daytons with like skinny tires at the S40s. So if you were actually going 80, like it showed 80 on the speedometer, you're really only going like 60, you know, because the tires were so small. You know, I had, you know, there had these chrome Daytons on there anyways, but I don't know, I'll go with this, but that's why this car reminds me of that time. But anyways, like, yeah, I let these perfectly strangers borrow my car, and they kept it for like a day and a half, and then they brought it back the next day, so that was cool. Anyways, next year, we had this 1956 Topps Mickey Mantle. This was a card that I also put on layaway. And this was the second card that I ever bought Mickey Mantle wise. From the same guy that I made my first layaway deal with. This is a sweet card, man. Look at that. All right. So this card right here is, if you can see Mickey Mantle, the ball is in his glove, but this was, you know, since this was drawn, they drew the ball in the glove. He never actually caught the ball. It was a home run. So the ball is actually up here where his name is, but to make it more dramatic, they put the ball in his glove like he caught it. I always call this the original Michael Jordan, because he looks like he's got the Michael Jordan pose. But that ball, he didn't catch it. It actually went over the wall for a home run. So as a kid, I always loved that. Oh, look at that, Mickey Mantle stealing a home run, you know. But he actually never did. All right, so, but this is probably my favorite, one of my favorite cards of all time. You'll hear me say that all the time when you want to talk about your favorite Mickey Mantle card. This one is it for me. I mean, just that sweet picture and then that sweet action photo. You gotta love that. So next card is 1957. Now this is a card you'll see, like I doubt you'll be able to see. You know, that's what happens when you do it in selfie mode. You got the shine kind of on the camera, especially on these cards when you have it on a top loader or anything like that. But it's kind of been like, what's that called? I forgot what it's called, but anyways, it's been rendered. So there was supposedly see what I'm too drunk already. There's a groundskeeper that was walking in the background right here by his bat. So they airbrushed him out. There you go, airbrush. So they airbrushed him out. So a lot of people, when they saw this card, they try to say it was the ghost of Babe Ruth. But it was just a groundskeeper that got airbrushed out from the photo. All right. Then you got this one from 57 Tops, also of Mickey Mantle and Yogi Berra. Check that out, Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra is known for his yogi-isms. One of his yogi-isms is, if you see a fork in the road, take it. Now, a lot of you guys might not get it. A fork in the road, you know, which way do you take, the left or the right? And they said that was the reason he said that line, was because to get to his house, there was actually a fork in the road. So people would always ask him, hey, when I get to the fork in the road, which way do I go? And he would always say, just take the fork. And the reason behind that was because it didn't matter. If you went to the left or you went to the right of the fork, either way, you would always end up at his house. You know, so that's kind of a cool little thing behind that right there. 58 Tops. All right. Now, this was the very first Mickey Mantle that I ever bought. Not this one in particular right here. The very first one that I bought. I mean, I had it for a few years, way before YouTube, before Instagram. I would post it on, you know, Facebook. But then when I got on Instagram and I joined this tight-knit group of collectors, one of the guys, he was putting the 58 Top set together with his dad. This was the last card they needed. And I had it in a PSA slab. And even though, like, since that was the very first Mickey Mantle, like, I remember, like, when I saw it with that dealer, I mean, it was like $150 or $175, somewhere around there. And I told him, hey, can I put that card on layaway? And he was like, layaway? Like, what do you mean layaway? Because at that time, that's, like I said, this is still when I was working at Big League Dreams, and I was making like $8 an hour. That's what I did for every single Christmas. For every single Christmas, right around Halloween, I'd start putting stuff on layaway at Walmart. So, you know, all my gifts basically that I would get everybody was on layaway. So I told him, yeah, you know, it's like, I'll pay you this much, and then every week that I get paid, I'll give you $25 every week, you know, till I pay it off. And man, and he was just like, oh man, he's all, okay, I'll make you that deal. He's all, but if anybody comes and offers me to pay me in full, I'm going to sell it to them. And I said, yeah, that's cool. And then just give my money back. He's like, yeah, then we have a deal. So luckily, it took me like a month and a half to pay this off, and nobody offered him cash to pay it in full. So I got my first Mickey Mantle, man, and I swore I would never sell that card or trade it. But this guy's story with him and his dad, I ended up selling it to him. And then, so this card is actually like my second 58 Tops that I bought. I actually bought it graded too, and I cracked the slab. That video is on YouTube where I cracked the slab for this card. So I cracked it. It was right around Christmas time too. So broke it, and so this is the second one. But the 58 Tops was the first Mickey Mantle that I ever bought, but it wasn't this exact one because I traded it to my homeboy. All right, and then you got the 58 Tops World Series Foes. This card, man, is badass. This is a sweet card. So if you're not familiar why it's World Series batting foes, this is the Milwaukee Braves, not the Atlanta Braves, all right? So when Hank Aaron was on the Braves, they were the Milwaukee Braves at this time, and they played in 57. So this is a 58 card. The Milwaukee Braves beat the Yankees in 1957. And then this is the 58 card, and in 1958, the Yankees beat the Milwaukee Braves in the World Series. But I just love how that kind of looks like an X right there, the bat. Look at them. Both of them have a sweet smile on them. Great. It's just a great photo, man. You can't beat this card. Look at that. You know how you... And then you got those banners that they always have in the World Series. That's just a badass card. Sweet, man. Love that card. 58. I don't know if you guys know my story about this card too. My very first 100 subscriber contest on YouTube. All right. I gave this card away. So, I mean, not exactly this card, but what happened is, well, a guy that I used to trade with a lot, I used to buy a lot from on YouTube, not on YouTube, this is before I had YouTube, on Instagram, he was selling this card, and so, I sent him the money, and back then, I don't do PayPal, I don't do, I sent him cash in the mail, and he was going to send me this card in the mail, and he was selling a bunch of cards, man. I bought a 69 Nolan Ryan off him, a bunch of 69 cards. And so I sent him the money, and he told me, okay, yeah, I'm going to send that off to you. And man, and then days went by, weeks went by, and I started messaging other people on Instagram. I was like, hey, man, this homeboy, he's always sending me my cards on time. He hasn't sent me this card. And everybody said, yeah, he's gone. I haven't heard from him on Instagram for a long time. So he just disappeared. So months passed by, and I was like, man, I don't want to call him out. I was like, oh, whatever, you win some, you lose some. I just took it as like, oh, well, it's gone. All right, whatever. Just forgot about it. And then months went by, and then all of a sudden the dude just pops up on Instagram again. Now, right away I DM'd him, like, hey, I never got my card. What happened? This and that. He's, oh, you never got it? And I'm all, no. So apparently what happened is he went to jail. Right, he went to jail, and he gave all the envelopes to his girlfriend or his wife, whatever she was at the time, to mail them out, when he went to jail, and she never did. So for months, they were in the trunk of her car. So, when I told him, he checked the trunk of her car, and all the packets were in there, and then he sent them all out. But by the time I got this card from him, I already had bought another one. So when I got his card in the mail that he owed me, I gave it away as my 100 subscriber contest, the 58 All-Star Mickey Mantle. And if you guys don't know, this card is like triple, quadruple printed. Basically what that means is they made a sheet, and because they had so many leftover spaces, they just put like 3 or 4 spots of Mickey Mantle prints on that same sheet. So that's why it's like three times quadruple printed. All right, then you got this 59 Topps Mickey Mantle, and I love this picture right here. Look at that. He's got a sweet smile on him. The batting cage in the back. I like this image, man. It's a really cool image. All right, and then in the back, I probably should be looking at some of the back of these cards. A lot of the back of these cards are sweet. Like this one, it talks about he hit a grand slam in the World Series. But look at that picture. Look at those two guys just hugging and smiling. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Then you got this Mantle hits his 42nd home run for the Crown. So this is a 59 card. But this home run that they're talking about in the Baseball Thrills, it's actually going back to his 1956 home run, the 42nd home run, to win the Triple Crown. All right? And I used to love buying these cards. You can see it was, it would book on Beckett for 125. This is how old all these cards are. That's why I say, like, a lot of these cards, I got them way before the boom when, I don't know how to say it, but the hobby was just a hobby. It wasn't so much about making money. There wasn't very many flippers or investors in it at the time. So a card like this will book on Beckett for 125, and it was on sale for $12.50. You know what I mean? But like I said, this is a 59 card, and it's talking about the 56, the year of 1956. Then this is also a 1959. This is the All-Star card from the Sporting News. Look at that. I love that, like, that little badge. It looks like a cop badge. So the Sporting News was sponsor. So, I mean, it's the Sporting News newspaper. And then the back is Bazooka, like the gum. But look at that, man. I mean, that's a sweet looking card right there. talks about how he's the best switch hitter of all time. Which, I mean, probably still stands true today. Who's a better switch hitter of all time than Mickey Mantle? Then, moving along to 1960. So you got this 1960 Mickey Mantle. Look at that pose right here. It kind of looks like Stan Musial. Almost kind of has that little like that little stance, that little hump. You know, then the back talks about a couple of his MVPs and stuff. A sweet card right there. That's the 1960. Then you got the 1960 All-Star. All right, that's pretty cool. Look at the back, the shadow. You know, that's sweet. In the back, you got almost like that comic book looking superhero Mickey Mantle in the back. Slam! Shazam! Sweet, man. And that one talks about Mickey hit a grand slam homer in the 53 series. All right. Oh, my dog's trying to come in now. Then you got this 1960 Topps Rival All-Stars of Mickey Mantle and Ken Boyer. You know, Ken Boyer's like one of those dudes that gets lost in the hobby. You know, just like anybody now, like right now, like last year, Wander Franco was hot. You had so many dudes that are hot, and then they're kind of, in the future, if you weren't in the moment, you're not going to know who they were. Same thing with Ken Boyer. I mean, in 1960, you would definitely know who Ken Boyer is. Had some great seasons, but then kind of fizzled out. So nowadays, people now might not know who Ken Boyer is, but definitely deserving at the time. Then you got this 1960 Mickey Mantle, which I always think the shirt kind of takes that pose, this Homer Simpson shirt. But obviously, it has like the natural right here. You know, the bat. But 1960 Mickey Mantle right there. You know, same thing, like bought it so long ago. You know, back then, that's the thing about dealers. If it booked on Beckett for like 600, they would sell it for like 80 bucks. You know, things like that. I mean, the hobby has just changed so much with comps and eBay and stuff. It's just not the same. And you got this, the 61 home run leaders. All right, so this is the 1961 card talking about the 1960 home run leaders. So you got Mickey Mantle in first place and Roger Maris in second. But in 1961, you guys should know how that ended up, right? Then you got this card from 1961 talking about the 1960 World Series. This is talking about Game 2, all right? You know, a lot of people, like, you know, they talk about right now, like, buying multiplayer cards. And I also love, like, little inserts of cards like this, like Mickey Mantle, because, like, say, like this one, it books for $100 at the time, but they would sell for, like, 15, and normally they give it to you for 10. But this is talking about Game 2 of the World Series, and Mickey Mantle hit 2 home runs. And in the back of the card, man, there's just so much information. It's practically a box score of Game 2 of that World Series. All right? And then I just saw a video not that long ago of some Mickey Mantle collector who said, like, he had nothing, he didn't want anything to do with this card. Like, it's not, he doesn't consider it part of the Mickey Mantle PC. But I do. All right? So, same thing. You know, this card, you know, is from 1961, but it's talking about Mickey Mantle's home run in 1953. Now, the significance of this home run is that this is what started the whole thing about the tape measure home run. All right, so because this home run left the park, he hit it out of the stadium, like something which was really never seen before. So he went to go look for the ball, and he estimated how far it was from home plate to where he found the ball, which was 565 feet, which started when people actually started measuring how far a home run went. Now, if you want to go even farther, let me see if I have that card right here that I'm looking for. Hold on. You know what, dude? I'm MC Hammered right now, but I gotta go take a Master P. Let me pause this. All right, man. I seriously had to take such a Master P. Man, it felt so good. I went, na, 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 na. All right, so another, like Mickey Mantle myth to go along with that first, with what they call the first tape measure home run in 1953. Well, here's another thing to throw into that. So, when Mickey Mantle was coming up in 1951 with the Yankees used to have their spring training all the time in Florida. But they were giving up their facilities to the New York Giants that year. And so they were going to practice in Arizona. And Casey Stengel was really good friends with Rob Dado, the head coach at USC, the USC College. So they had a barnstorm game where the New York Yankees played the USC baseball team, college team. And Mickey Mantle at the time was a shortstop, okay? He was a shortstop for the New York Yankees trying to come up his first year, 1951 spring training. And Mickey Mantle hit 2 home runs in that game. And one of his home runs, like, cleared the stadium and went into the football field, and people went to go look for the ball. And they looked in the football field and it wasn't there. So they went past the football field and it was in front of this little church. All right. So somebody estimated that that church was 660 feet away from home plate. So the rumor at the time was Mickey Mantle hit a home run that went 660 feet. All right. Which was crazy, right? It's just like bonkers. But, you know, after further investigation later on, someone came across this guy, Frank Gifford. All right. You guys know who he is, Frank Gifford, Hall of Famer for the Giants football team. Well, he was playing at USC at that time. So the football team was having practice on the football field. And Frank Gifford said, as he was right in the middle of the field while they were doing practice, and this ball landed right in front of him. All right. And he was in the middle of the football field. So it was during practice. He said, wow, I had never seen anything like that before. So I just grabbed the ball. And he went, you know, and threw it over the fence, the opposite side of the baseball field, threw it over the fence. So he threw it, and that's how it landed in front of the church. But, so then they measured how far it was from home plate to where he said the ball landed. It was 550 feet. But, like, nobody cared anymore because at first they thought it was 660 feet. And now that it was confirmed that he hit it 550 feet, nobody cared. But then, you know, a couple years later, he hits his 565-foot home run, and everybody cares. It's like, you know, it's one of those things like, what are you going to do? But in case you didn't know that story. Okay, then we got the 61 MVP, most valuable card, talking about his 56 through 57 MVP season. All right, one of these cards, like I said, like back in the days, if booked for 200, and I got this for like 65, you know, which a lot of times they would end up giving it to you cheaper. I got this 52 Tops Mickey Mantle right here. Check that out. You know, I always like to say that the 62 Tops was the wood around it is maple, not maple, or mahogany. How we say, oh, the 62 Tops are made